Okay, tell me your story.
How involved are you with the casting process, and what tips do you have to get beyond preconceived ideas? So if you've had the script, maybe you have an idea of the character, how do you remain open to potential?
Do you know, it's so different for each project. You just, there's no rules to it. I mean, in the film I just made for Trash, I spent months and months and months in Brazil trying to find the leads because they were non-professional. And I approached Martin Sheen in it because he'd spent so much time on landfill sites in the Philippines, and Rooney Mara spent so much time as her own foundation working in the slums of Kenya. So that was very specific casting.
Wherever there is corruption, injustice, there are dollars.
O que eu vou fazer? Procurar o dinheiro.
Casting is it's such a complicated thing. It's hard to make any generalized statements about. It's so specific to basically a personal relationship with the script and how you approach actors. The great danger is that, there's a list of actors that everybody goes for because they think they can help finance their film or TV show, which is always a bit of a disaster, it seems to me.
And thinking about non-actors, so what kind of stage do you set for non-actors? Is there a different kind of sensitivity or a different way of working?
In a sense, you have to give them, well, first of all, you have to assume everything's going to take much longer. You have to find a way that it's very much about never telling them what you want, but always trying to get them to tell you what they can do. And the process is much more about them revealing themselves to you, and you being open to that and actually open to trying to work with them, and certainly never saying the words, no, that's not right, or please don't do that, or can you do this instead, but actually go with them as much as you possibly can and change everything according to what they're giving you.
I was going to ask about unlocking their potential and kind of, sustaining their confidence.
Well, sustaining confidence is about support, and actually that's about creating a support mechanism that isn't just I think it's quite important to create a community around them while they're making the film, and indeed afterwards to a certain extent, to allow them to maintain, actually more than anything else, it's just tenacity. Because making a film is profoundly boring and profoundly tedious and very long hours. So why on earth would they stay with the process? And certainly they have no knowledge about what they're making. They've got no investment in the finished product necessarily. So their only investment and their only commitment is to you.
I work in the trash.
Is there any extra emphasis on post-production to help show off a performance with non-actors?
The primary difference between a non-professional and a professional is the idea of repeated action. It's just repeated action. Now, there's many systems in place in the theatre and in film, but mostly in the theatre. People have spent many years and many centuries debating how you do repeated action from Stanislavski onwards. So what is the idea of a repeated action? In other words, how do you do it twice? How do you do it 3 times? Non-professionals won't understand the idea of turning the camera around. Like, why would they imagine turning the camera around? Why would they think they had to do it again? So the best way of approaching that is to ask them not to do it again, but actually to keep reinventing it and keep reinventing it. It can cause you issues in the edit room, but again, asking for repeated action, which is a very technical thing to ask someone to do, is usually not the way to pursue it, I found.
Por que você tá fazendo isso?
Because he's right.
Moving on to Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close and Asperger's, how deeply did you research the Asperger condition to make sure that you kept an authenticity, that you represented that condition?
Well, I think Asperger's is actually pretty well known now. I mean, maybe in the it's not a recent diagnosis, but it's not in the far past. I mean, I think that it's getting people are talking about it much more. It's much more common. It's much more current within the conversation generally about autism. I think people know where it is and what it is. But obviously, we spend a huge amount of time with different autistic experts, and we were helped with the family of Thomas Horn, who played the part, were very experienced with the autistic world. through different personal reasons. So in a sense, they came with that knowledge, and we had our own experts to come in and trying to find exactly where that child in the story was on the spectrum was a particular source of interest, actually, and a source of joy.
My dad said the way I saw the world was a gift, that I was different than everyone else. A great game we'd play was Reconnaissance Expedition. He told me to bring back something from every decade in the 20th century. I found something from every decade.
Already? You rock.
Moving on to the National Live Theatre and directing Skylight at the West End, what were the challenges? Did you have to compromise? So, your usual approach to theatre and then bringing in National Live Theatre medium.
People either love the National Live medium, some people don't like it. It is a hybrid, there's no question about it. The great advantage of it is it gets access to audiences that might not otherwise see the work, and that's of paramount importance, and it is a good thing. Certain pieces work better than others, but I don't think one can deny you can't deny it's not a hybrid, because it is. And then the problems with Skylight come because it's a particular issue of how David's writing works, so that you have to spend a little bit more time worrying about it, because usually the instinctive response for a live mixer will be to have the camera on the people that are speaking, but on the whole the scene is usually not about where people are speaking, it's about what people aren't speaking. So it's a more complex journey just to get something that is the hybrid working in some form.
And for the actors, I suppose that different convention of being close and also projecting, how did you find?
It's always complex, because it's in a sense, I think you have to. What I say to the actors is, you have to be aware of where the camera is. You're in a live audience, and so they'll automatically want you to reach out. But actually, if you'll find your own balance between the camera and the audience if you can.
Can I ask? Do you see this being the future of theatre? Does theatre need this? Do you see this really, the National Live experience, becoming commonplace in many ways? I
think the National Theatre Live experience is becoming commonplace. I think lots of people are doing it, and they're doing it more and more. I don't think the theatre will rely on it. I think there's two reasons for doing it. One, to access audiences that wouldn't otherwise see it, and to be frank, it's a source of income. I think if the theatre start relying on a source of income, it'll be a problem. At the moment, it should, in terms of financial planning, it's a bonus that is delightful. But the more important aspect, I think, of the NT Live is just to get it to audiences that actually can't get to London. And it is a London-centric problem in England.
One more question, a fun question, which is more for us. Just wanted to ask you how you like your coffee.
It's a very good question. Obviously, I'm a dairy freak, so that I do like a latte, but I know I shouldn't be eating so much dairy. So in a sense, I'm trying to drink more coffee that's just coffee, but I think in the end I'm going to convert to tea, because I think it's the coffee and the milk that I really like.
So with coffee, if you're being good, what would you have?
A latte.
And if you're being bad?
Oh, if I'm being good, no, I'd have just black coffee, I'm sorry. If I'm being, that's pure, with just a touch of milk, which isn't so good, or a big frothy coffee.